mountains comes back the same. My name is David, and I'm a search and rescue ranger in this Sierra Nevada. I've been doing this for 9 years, and I've seen a lot. Broken bones, altitude sickness, hypothermia, you name it. But the call I got in June of last year was different. A hiker had been reported missing on the Eagle Point Trail. Male, mid-30s, experienced climber, went out alone 2 days ago and never came back. His wife called it in when he didn't show up for their anniversary dinner. We assembled a small team. Me, another ranger named Tom, and a volunteer named Lisa who'd done SAR work before. We headed out at first light. The trail was steep and rocky, cutting through dense pine forest before opening up to alpine meadows near the summit. The weather was clear and visibility was good. We expected to find him quickly. Maybe he'd twisted an ankle or gotten turned around. It happens. We hiked for about 3 hours, calling his name, checking side trails and ridge lines. Nothing. Then, around noon, Lisa spotted something. "Over there," she said, pointing to a cluster of boulders about 50 yards off the main trail. We climbed over and found him. He was sitting upright, back against a rock, legs stretched out in front of him. His hands were resting on his knees. His eyes were open, staring straight ahead. I approached carefully. "Sir, can you hear me?" No response. Tom checked his pulse. He looked at me and shook his head. The man was dead. Had been for at least 12 hours, maybe longer. His skin was pale and waxy, his lips tinged blue. Cause of death wasn't immediately obvious. No visible injuries, no signs of a fall. It looked like he just sat down and stopped. Tom radioed it in while Lisa and I searched the area. We found his backpack a few feet away, neatly packed and zipped shut. Inside were supplies: water, snacks, a first aid kit. His phone was dead, but his wallet and ID were there. His name was Eric Malone, 34 years old, married. No medical history we could find in his emergency contact info. "Looks like he just sat down and gave up," Tom said quietly. "Or something scared him," Lisa added. I didn't respond, but I was thinking the same thing. Because Eric's face wasn't peaceful. His eyes were wide, his mouth slightly open, like he'd seen something in his final moments, something that terrified him. We waited for the recovery team to arrive. It took about 2 hours. While we waited, I stayed with the body. Tom and Lisa went back to the main trail to guide the team in. That's when I noticed something strange. Eric's boots. They were caked in mud. Fresh mud. Wet, dark mud, like he'd been walking through a marsh. But there was no mud anywhere near here. The ground was dry, rocky. The nearest water source was a creek about 2 miles back, and we'd already passed it on the way up. I knelt down and looked closer. The mud was thick, clinging to the soles and sides of his boots. And there was something else. Small scratches on the leather, like he'd been dragging his feet through brush. I stood up and looked around. The forest here was open, mostly scattered pines and granite outcroppings. No thick brush, no mud. Where had he been walking? I was about to radio Tom when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching through the dry pine needles. Coming from behind me. I turned around. There was no one there. But the footsteps continued. Closer now, I could hear them clearly, moving in a circle around me, just out of sight behind the trees. "Tom? Lisa?" I called out. No answer. The footsteps stopped. I stood there, frozen, my hand on the bear spray at my belt. The forest was silent. No birds, no wind, just me and the body. Then, Eric's head moved. Not much. Just a slight tilt to the side, like he was turning to look at me. His eyes stayed open, unblinking, but his head rotated slowly, unnaturally, until he was facing me directly. I stumbled backward, my heart hammering. Dead people don't move. This wasn't possible. His mouth opened. "Run," The word came out as a dry rasp, barely audible. His lips didn't move. The sound came from somewhere deep in his chest, like air being forced through a broken pipe. Run! Now! I didn't wait. I turned and ran, crashing through the trees, following the trail markers back to where I had left Tom and Lisa. Behind me, I could hear it, the sound of something moving, fast and heavy, snapping branches and crunching through the underbrush. I risked a glance back. Eric was standing. He was on his feet, swaying slightly, his head still tilted at that unnatural angle. His arms hung limp at his sides, and he was walking. Not stumbling, walking, straight towards me. I ran harder, lungs burning, legs pumping. The trail blurred past me. I could see Tom and Lisa ahead of me, waving at me, confused. "Move! Get back!" I shouted. They didn't understand, but they moved. I ran past them and they followed. We didn't stop until we reached the main trail where the recovery team was waiting. I turned around, gasping for air. The forest behind us was empty. No movement, no sound. Tom grabbed my shoulder. "David, what the hell happened?" I couldn't answer. I just shook my head. We went back with the full team, 8 of us, armed with radios and flashlights. We found Eric's body exactly where we'd left it, sitting against the rock, eyes open, mouth closed. But his boots were clean. No mud, no scratches, just dry, dusty leather. The coroner ruled it a cardiac event, said Eric probably had an undiagnosed heart condition and died quickly, peacefully. No signs of trauma, no evidence of foul play. But I know what I saw. And 2 weeks later, I got a call from Eric's wife. She said she had found something in his car, a journal he'd been keeping during his hikes. The last entry was dated the day he died. It said, "Something is following me. I can hear it in the trees. I don't think I'm alone up here. If I don't make it back, tell Sarah I love her and tell her not to come looking for me. Whatever's out here, it doesn't want to be found."
I never went back to Eagle Point Trail because I know Eric was right. Something was following him. And when we found him, it was still there, watching, waiting. And I think it's still out there, waiting for the next person to wander off the trail. Some nights, you're not alone in the station. My name is Kyle, and I'm a park ranger in Olympic National Park in Washington. Most of my job is routine, checking trails, maintaining campsites, talking to tourists. But once a month, I pull overnight duty at the remote Cascade Ridge Ranger Station. It's a small, one-room cabin about 15 miles from the nearest road. No cell service, no internet. Just me, a radio, a wood stove, and the forest. Most rangers hate overnight duty. Too isolated, too quiet. But I didn't mind it. I'd bring a book, make some coffee, and enjoy the solitude. Until last November. I arrived at the station around 4 in the afternoon. The sun was already setting. Days are short up there in the fall. I unlocked the door, dropped my pack, and started a fire in the stove. The cabin warmed up quickly, and I settled in for the night. Around 7, I made dinner, instant ramen and a granola bar, gourmet. I ate by the fire, listening to the wind outside. It was picking up, rattling the windows and shaking the trees. By 9, I was reading. The radio was on low, tuned to the emergency channel, standard procedure. If anyone needed help, I'd hear it. That's when I heard the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front door. I put down my book and stood up. "Hello?" No answer. I walked to the door and opened it. There was no one there, just darkness and trees and the sound of wind. I stepped outside, shining my flashlight around the clearing. Nothing. No footprints, no movement. I went back inside and locked the door. Probably just a branch hitting the wall, I thought. But 10 minutes later, it happened again. 3 knocks. Slow. Deliberate. I got up and checked the door. Nothing. This time, I didn't go back inside. I walked around the entire cabin, checking every side, every window. There was nothing there. I went back in and sat down, but I didn't pick up my book. I just stared at the door. At 10:30, the knocking started again, but this time it didn't stop.
Knock, knock, knock. Over and over, rhythmic and steady, like someone was pounding on the door with their fist. I grabbed my flashlight and yanked the door open. Nothing. But the knocking continued. It was coming from inside the cabin now, from the back wall. I spun around, shining my light at the wall. The knocking moved. Now it was coming from the left wall, then the right, then the ceiling. It was all around me, echoing through the cabin, loud and relentless. I grabbed the radio. "Dispatch, this is Ranger 12 at Cascade Ridge. I need backup. Something's happening at the station." Static. "Dispatch, do you copy?" Nothing. The knocking stopped. The silence was worse. I stood there, breathing hard, my flashlight shaking in my hand. Then I heard it. Scratching. It was coming from under the floorboards. Long, slow scrapes moving from one end of the cabin to the other, like something was crawling underneath. I backed toward the door, keeping my light trained on the floor. The scratching got louder, more frantic, like whatever was down there was trying to get in. Then the floor started to bow. The wooden boards creaked and bent upward, like something was pushing from underneath. I didn't wait. I grabbed my pack and ran out the door. Outside, the wind had died completely. The forest was silent. I ran toward the trail, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. I ran for over an hour, following the trail markers until I reached the main road. I flagged down a passing car and made them drive me to the nearest ranger station. The next morning, they sent a team to check the Cascade Ridge cabin. They found it exactly as I'd left it. Door open, fire still burning in the stove, my book on the table. But the floor was untouched. No scratches, no bent boards, no sign that anything had been underneath. They said I probably heard an animal, maybe a bear or a raccoon. They said the isolation got to me, but I know what I heard, and I know what I felt. Because when I left that cabin, I looked back, just once, and I saw something in the window. A shadow, tall and thin, pressed against the glass, watching me leave. I requested a transfer the next week. I don't do overnight duty anymore, and I never went back to Cascade Ridge. Because whatever was in that cabin, it wasn't an animal, and I don't think it was alone.
Some warnings come too late. My name is Rachel, and I'm a dispatcher for the National Park Service in Montana. I don't go into the field. I sit in an office, answer calls, and coordinate rescue operations. It's a desk job, mostly. Safe. Boring, even. But on October 14th of last year, I received a transmission that I'll never forget. It was just after midnight. The office was quiet. I was alone, working the overnight shift, monitoring the radio channels. Most rangers had checked in hours ago. Everything was calm. Then, the radio crackled. "Dispatch, this is Ranger 9. Do you copy?" The voice was faint, broken by static. I recognized it immediately. Matt Kellerman, a veteran ranger working the northern quadrant of Glacier National Park.
Ranger 9, I copy. What's your status? There was a long pause, then more static. His voice came back, quieter this time. I need backup. Something's wrong. My heart skipped. Matt, what's your location? Are you injured? I'm at Grizzly Creek Station, but I'm not alone. I pulled up the map on my screen. Grizzly Creek was remote, deep in the backcountry, miles from the nearest trail. It was one of the old stations, rarely used anymore. Matt, who's with you? Static. Matt? His voice came back, trembling. I don't know what it is, but it's outside, and it knows I'm here. I felt a chill run down my spine. Matt, stay inside. Lock the doors. I'm sending a team now. No, his voice cracked. Don't send anyone. It's waiting. I think it wants... The transmission cut out. Matt! Matt, do you copy? Nothing. I tried calling him back. No response. I immediately contacted the nearest ranger team and sent them to Grizzly Creek. ETA, 2 hours. I sat there, staring at the radio, my hands shaking. Then, at 12:47 a.m., the radio crackled again. But it wasn't Matt's voice. It was something else. Low, distorted, barely human. He's gone. I froze.
Who is this? I demanded. The voice laughed. It was a horrible sound, wet and rasping, like something choking. He ran. They always run, but I found him. This is an emergency channel. Identify yourself immediately. The laughter stopped. You sent them. The others. They're coming. Good. I'll be waiting. The transmission ended. I tried to reach the rescue team, but they were out of radio range. I couldn't warn them. All I could do was sit there and wait. 3 hours later, the team arrived at Grizzly Creek Station. They found the door open. Inside, the cabin was empty. No sign of Matt. But they found his radio, smashed on the floor. And on the wall, written in something dark, were 3 words. He ran first. They searched the area for 2 days. They never found Matt. No body, no tracks, nothing. The official report listed him as missing, presumed dead. But I know the truth, because 2 weeks later I received another transmission. Late at night, same channel, Matt's voice. Rachel, don't send anyone else. It's still here. It's always here. I reported it immediately. They checked the logs. The transmission came from Grizzly Creek. But there was no one there. I quit 3 months later. I couldn't do it anymore. Every time the radio crackled, I thought it was him. Or worse, something pretending to be him. Because I know what I heard that night. And I know Matt was right. Whatever's out there at Grizzly Creek, it's still waiting. Waiting for the next person to answer the call. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. These stories are real, submitted by rangers who lived through them. If you have your own encounter, leave it in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because next week, we're diving into the most disturbing 911 calls ever made from the deep woods. You won't want to miss it. Stay safe out there. And remember, some places aren't meant to be found.